All the spirit beasts that the god had proudly brought to fight, every single one was lying there with its mouth hanging open, dead. Leon's voice was cool as ever. What subordinates? I didn't pay attention, saw some worms and centipedes on the way, so I casually chopped them down. All of it happened in just a blink, she said. But hey, no need for you to worry about that. The god named Ak knew full well how other beasts trembled under his aura. This mantis, what was he? The way he glared back, it was like he was sizing him up, dangerous and unafraid. He wasn't the type for chit-chat either. He wanted to end this, fast. Good. That worked just fine for Leon. Leon instantly switched into his second combat form. His aura shifted dramatically. He hadn't had a real fight since he'd been stationed out in deep space. Now that he had the chance, no way he was letting it pass. You don't need to care about what happened before, she said coldly, because you're gonna die anyway. That was her way of saying, bring it on, one-on-one. About 10 minutes after Leon arrived, Big Bird returned from Dragon Island, exhausted and barely standing. He didn't even get to rest before flying like a madman to the city border, where Bull Demon and Flash were still fighting back the Beast Horde. Flash, Bull Demon, get back to defend your own cities. Gods have started attacking. By that point, the gods had spilled out of the voids everywhere. Flash blinked, confused, and asked Peregrine Falcon, "What? My city? What happened to it?" Then she heard a name, one that shook her. "Leon's holding your city right now, but the second city has now been completely occupied." That made everything worse. Flash should go back, but if she did, the Beast Army here would storm through like a tidal wave, and they'd lose the flanking advantage. Bull Demon shouted, "If we pull back, who's gonna hold them here?" In front of them, spirit beasts flooded in like a damn monsoon. There were so many of them, calling it a beast tide wouldn't be wrong. "You don't need to worry." Big Bird's voice cut through, and the ground began to shake. The polar bears had arrived, charging in with their whole tribe behind them, just like Big Bird had arranged. They were taking over the front. Alongside Big Bird, who soared overhead at top speed, came the declaration, "We won't let them break through this path." City 2 had fallen before any real fight could begin. The moment War God Dom appeared, his loyal hybrid followers rushed to his side, waiting for orders. "Enemies are coming," Dom commanded. "Go deal with those low-level creatures." But before Dom finished giving orders, a thunderous drumming echoed across the city. Dom thought it was one of his elves at first. He was wrong. City 2 had somehow finished constructing a massive wooden altar, built in tribal style. And leading that charge, a jacked kangaroo from Australia. Following behind it were the brutal tribe. Even Yuziu was shocked. How did the kangaroo manage to tame those wild brutes? Not only tamed them, it had their complete loyalty. With a tribe at its back, the aura that the kangaroo carried had changed completely. Once the drums thundered, Dom's hybrids rushed in to surround the altar, eyes sharp and waiting for the first sign to brawl. Dom didn't give a damn who that kangaroo was. To him, anyone from Earth was the same, nothing but cannon fodder. "Beating your little drums for what? You lowly creatures will be defeated sooner or later." "Big words," the tiger faction roared back, cursing straight in his face. Even before the kangaroo could speak, the frontline warriors were already charging, bared fangs, claws gleaming, diving straight into close combat with the gods' beast troops. While both sides clashed below in a storm of sheer numbers, White Tiger hovered alone in the sky, wings fully spread, circling around that strange pillar in wide, calculated arcs. Absolutely, he had to bring Xiaolan along. With the tiger's brain, who knows when it would notice something strange. Xiaolan used her spiritual treasure, the spirit vision eyes, to scan every corner of the pillar, and found that it was channeling energy from underground. To be precise, it was drawing power from the ground and sending it out in two directions, left and right of the pillar. She couldn't tell exactly where it was going or what they were planning, but one thing she knew for sure, whatever they were trying to do, it wasn't going to be good. That meant they had to destroy it before whatever it was could take form. Under Xiaolan's command, the white tiger held a chunk of spiritual energy in its mouth and blasted it smack dab at the center of the pillar, hoping to blow it up. The force was strong, but it only left a small trace on the surface, barely a scratch. "Weird. Again," Xiaolan shouted. The dumb tiger answered with its third eye, lit up like a spotlight, and it fired off a blast with double the power straight at the black pillar. But this time, the attack got intercepted. Something blocked the white tiger's power. Turned out it was one of the gods from City 2 stepping in. "I won't let you destroy it, you two little white kittens," he sneered. Xiaolan gritted her teeth. She could find weak spots, but had zero attack power. This mission was gonna be tough. Aside from Dragon Island and the territory of Dom, most of the Azure Star had already been taken over by Yuziu. And as y'all might know, the war god's territory was split into 8 zones. Apart from the center right in the middle, the other zones ranged from City 3 to City 6, plus 2 regions from Blossom Federation and Freedom Federation. All 8 parts were hit by the gods nearly simultaneously. The human side was loaded with weapons designed specifically to fight off magical beasts, so the firepower was no joke, explosive and scorching hot. The central zone was dealing with the elf army led by the Elf Queen, attacking from the skies. They quickly got their rhythm back. Sky battles were their thing after all, and kept firing arrows back at the spirit cannon turrets, aiming to take them out. Compared to the elves' agility, the cannons were definitely at a disadvantage. The tall buildings in the central zone were getting wrecked badly. And then came the call. Launch the siege arrows. She wanted to destroy that building so bad. In that wide-open, under-defended situation, only one person could handle it. Yule, the guy who'd mastered magnetic force. He raised his hand, stood right in front of the incoming arrows. "Come back here!" he roared. The dude was majestic. The arrows, heavy as hell, did a full 180 and shot straight back at the siege machine, smashing down like a hammer and burying the whole elf squad beneath. What the hell? The Elf Queen was fuming and stunned at the same time. That squad was her main force. Those tiny side arrows weren't going to scratch human spirit cannons. And right then, as their teammates fell apart, that was the dwarf clan's cue. They hadn't joined the fight at all so far, but the moment they saw the elves losing ground, they scoffed. "Told ya, can't trust the elves. Let's go." They came out of the forest edge like they were just out for a stroll. But once they were in Yule's sight, he jolted. Dwarves? The dwarf clan had never invaded Earth like the elves, so no one knew how strong they really were. They wore thick armor, rode male antelopes with long, sturdy horns. One shout of "charge!" and they all sprinted like leashed dogs cut loose, each one more savage than the next. But they didn't know, Yule might not be able to hold off all of them with just magnetics, but someone else had a surprise waiting for them. It was the fourth brother, hiding so well nobody noticed until he struck. That giant body of his. By the time they saw him, it was too late. The claw swipe hit the dwarves like a death blow. Blood flew. They coughed up a storm. "You, come play with me," a voice shouted out of nowhere. Wine Deity swooped in behind the Elf Queen's blonde head. His brows were furrowed tight, and from the way he said play, it sure wasn't going to be gentle. Both fists were already clenched. Wine Deity didn't come alone. It brought along its big, noisy mouth too. Didn't even try to hide it. "Elf Queen, let me have some fun with you," it shouted. But who was the Elf Queen? She was the leader of a whole race. You think she gave a damn about some scruffy magical beasts? The moment she saw it was a panda from the blue planet. She roared, "Don't touch me with those dirty hands." Saying no, though? That only made the wine deity punch harder. "What did you say? Don't touch me with those dirty hands?" The panda growled. "You kidding me, monster? You started this war. You're the one who tried to kill my companions." The queen wanted to scream back. Pain and blood choked her words. She couldn't even get out a reply. "I came here to kill you. Don't think I'll go easy," Wine Deity growled. Arrows came whizzing through the air, aimed straight at the panda's face. The elf army had finally snapped out of their shock. Seeing their queen punched like that, they instantly launched a barrage of arrows. The small panda danced left and right, weaving through the glowing streaks. The arrows kept coming, pushing Wine Deity into a corner. At this rate, it was gonna get hit. If he didn't fight back, the other side would think it was weak. With a snarl, the panda conjured a massive fireball behind his back, bigger than his whole body. It unleashed streams of blazing fire in all directions, roasting the elf warriors to a crisp. They never saw it coming. Even riding giant vultures didn't save them. The fire sliced clean and ruthless. The sky filled with the stench of burnt flesh. Let's see how the queen escapes now without her army. The elf queen raised her hand and summoned a vortex of fire while muttering spells in some strange tongue. The fire burst into columns, slamming into the ground around Wine Deity, trapping it in a ring of flame. The queen had lost it. She didn't even care that her own troops were still on the ground when she rained hellfire down. You could see some of them trying to crawl away, but she didn't bat an eye. All she wanted was to burn that black and white creature to dust. To her, Wine Deity was just a lowly being that needed to be destroyed. One of the fire columns struck Wine Deity. He became just a tiny speck inside it, and its screams faded into the roar of flames. "Ah, you deserve it," the queen cackled. "Just wait, I'll peel your charred hide and crush it under my feet." She rode her vulture toward the pillar, ready to collect the body. But suddenly, the fire turned on her, lashing out. She had to jerk the reins and retreat fast, almost got herself roasted alive. The fire that had engulfed Wine Deity was now under its control. It had reversed the spell and was attacking its caster. And there it was, right in the heart of it all, manipulating the fire with lightning speed. With a blur, it zipped toward the queen. Think I'm easy prey? Take this. Turns out the whole time it was just putting on a show to set up a mega punch. This time, both fists smashed into the queen's face. Her cheek caved in, her head twisted to the side. She was in pain, furious, but more than that, humiliated. How dare you hit me in the face? Before she could finish, Wine Deity switched from fists to feet. Bam! A kick straight to the face. There goes your fake royal mask. The queen let out a huge "oh" as she was kicked off her vulture. The bird panicked, unable to catch her in time. She slammed into the ground with a loud crash. That finally calmed Wine Deity down a bit. He sneered. Bet that fall hurt like hell, huh? The vulture, now masterless, went berserk. It screeched and dived at the panda, beak ready to strike. When they collided, the sky shook with a thunderous boom. I can control fire, ice, and every element in between, it said coldly. A little flame won't hurt me, and a stupid bird like you, even less. Your subordinates fought with their lives to protect you, yet you were willing to attack them just to kill me. Narrowing its eyes, it shouted, "You're downright cruel. Let me strip you of all your titles." Seeing the queen staggering to her feet amidst the rubble, Wine Deity knew this fight had only just begun. Flames blazed on its hands as it recalled the queen's earlier insults. Just thinking about it made its fur itch with rage. I'm not some dirty thing, all right? I'm a Class 1 protected species, got that? The queen saw the panda charging at her like a mad beast, and she had no way to stop it. Wine Deity slammed his palm into her chest. He didn't have a weapon, but the power behind that blow was terrifying. The space behind her exploded, and she was hurled backward, completely defenseless. Truth be told, Wine Deity seemed way out of her league now. She couldn't even resist, and within moments she passed out from a single punch, mouth wide open. "Reflect on your sins, woman," it said like a hero who'd just slain an evil beast tormenting the people. But then, a sudden force pierced through Wine Deity's chest from behind. The panda jolted, confused, and coughed up blood. An ambush? Who would have thought someone that flashy would stoop to a sneak attack? But it was a clean strike. Wine Deity collapsed forward. No one could tell if it had fainted or died. Nature God let out a quiet laugh up in the sky. Like the other gods of this world, to it, anything that wasn't the tree of life was just trash. In that murky space of purples and blues, a pillar of ice stretched forward, darting through the air like lightning. Tiny black dots clung to it, buzzing with impatience. Even at lightning speed, they thought it wasn't fast enough. Poe, riding this way for the first time, shouted to Ninetails beside him, "Hey, Fox, how long until we get there? Last time it took our master 15 days. This time, we're using the void. We can get there in an hour." That was already pushing the limits. Poe was pissed. He gripped the neck of the dinosaur he was riding and snapped, "The hell? An hour? By then the fight'll be over. I have a bad feeling about my brother. I need to get there first." Only Poe could sense it, but Xiaolong beside him was equally fired up. "Let me come with you." Ninetails didn't stop them. Wine Deity was probably just somewhere in the cities under attack anyway. "Glacier, Kuizhou, you two go to City 6. Glacier nodded. "Big sis, are you going to City 4? That place is already in ruins." Ninetails knew that. She wasn't going to defend it. She was going to find Xiaoling. So the crew split up, racing off to their respective zones. Meanwhile, loud rumbles had been shaking the central zone for a while now. The attacks on the central fortress hadn't let up. Around it, countless magical beasts lay dead, mouths agape, all struck down by fatal blows. Yule held his position with the spirit cannon, unable to push forward to chase the enemy. He had noticed someone striking at the elf squad directly. But that panda, what the heck was its deal? Its energy kept rising and falling. Could it even be beaten at all? On the ground lay an empty flask that had once held the life essence of a god tree. It had been tossed aside, completely drained. Wine Deity had been through enough battles to know it sucked at defense, so it always packed healing items. The wound quickly sealed up. Yeah, Wine Deity was still hanging in there. Almost died back there. Seeing the one who ambushed him landing not far away, Wine Deity couldn't help but snap. "You're just like my master said. Disgusting and shameless." Nature God didn't mind being cursed out, but still gave a casual reply. "In the cycle of life, the result is all that matters." Then came a soft, sweet voice. "As long as we win, that's enough." Dream God appeared out of nowhere, and then another voice, low, grim. "Whatever price it takes, I'll pay it." Just like that, a dark pillar with strange markings popped up behind the two gods. So now, it wasn't just Nature God and Dream God, there was a third god in play. Wine Deity alone facing these three? No way it could hold up for long. But you seem to forget, this was the central city. How could the panda be alone here? Those sharp nails that had just blown away an entire dwarf army now stood lined up behind Yule. Now it was 3-on-3. Sizing them up silently, Yule's mouth stayed tough as ever. "We're not so weak that you can just slaughter us at will." Oh yeah? That line was like a starting gun. Nature God and Dream God burst out laughing like maniacs before charging forward. Let's see who crushes who. Wine Deity, Yule, and Lava Dragon charged in to meet them. A smile spread across Wine Deity's face. The stronger the enemy, the more it liked it. And now it had its brothers fighting beside it. A brutal battle? Even better. While chaos exploded in the central city, things were dead quiet over in City 2. That big black pillar still stood tall, untouched. A kangaroo's tail swayed lazily in the breeze, clearly bored. All the enemies were here, and still no one had thrown a punch. Seeing the other side just standing around too, Kang cracked its mouth open in a taunt. "Guess I'm late again, huh? Letting a punk like you take over this spot?" It was just trash talk, really. The kangaroo crew had already taken over the altar at the center of City 2. They were all lined up, ready to throw down. Zero fear. Dom wanted that spot bad. He'd once stood there to show off his power, and now seeing some freak beast standing there talking smack made his blood boil. He snorted in disdain, then roared, "I was just getting bored. Let's play." By play, he meant summoning a whole swarm of freakish mutants, eyes locked onto the enemy. Dom himself stood tall atop the black pillar, not even bothering to move. "Kill them," he barked. At his command, the mutant horde charged forward. Kang weren't shaken in the slightest. "Let's show 'em what earth beasts can do." The shaman tribe and all the Aussie beasts stormed in. The kangaroo that yelled, it leapt into the fight itself. Eyes locked on one target, Dom, the smug jerk on top of that pillar. Both sides clashed with a massive boom. From below, the kangaroo's landing seemed like it could crack a chunk off the pillar. But in reality, Dom had leapt up, and the two collided midair. The shockwave shook the air, powerful enough to knock weaker folks off their feet. Locked in a fierce stare down, they matched muscles, arms clenched, neither willing to back off an inch. "You don't have the kind of spirit energy that only comes from the strange trees," Dom growled. "Are you really his subordinate?" That was a long story, but Kang didn't have time for tales. It smirked and growled, "Of course not. Think what you want." Its job was to punch the so-called war god straight into next week. The two slammed down hard onto the pillar's top, sending a quake through the entire area. Smoke shot up 4 times higher than before. The two combatants pulled back slightly. They were evenly matched in size, body shape, and even had twitchy tails. It was like they were made to be rivals. Dom had a flash of that thought and immediately roared in fury. "Every creature on your planet is so full of itself." He hated that even for a second he'd thought this rodent could match him. Dom was a god of this world, and as far as he was concerned, off-world freaks didn't even deserve a glance. Boom! His divine domain flared up. Spirit energy soared sky-high like a volcanic eruption. Since his resurrection, Dom's form had changed completely. He looked more like a demon lord now, engulfed in flame, with wicked horns sprouting from his back. "Pretty scary," Kang muttered. "Never killed a god before. Might as well give it a shot." It couldn't transform, but just like Dom said, its spiritual energy wasn't just one kind. Dark domain, a black aura reeking of death, wrapped around the kangaroo. It didn't shapeshift, but it sure powered up. This fight was about to get spicy. "Hell yeah!" Dom laughed like a madman and flung a blazing fireball at the kangaroo. Across from him, Kang let out a savage roar. One arm turned pitch black, tainted by darkness. Sharp, stiff claws extended as it slashed directly at the fireball. The moment the dark energy touched it, the flames spread like a tree canopy, trying to swallow the fireball whole. At first glance, it looked like a mismatch in power, but the kangaroo's eyes turned pitch black, pouring more strength into the clash. It wasn't going down without a fight. Then came the endless rumble of the earth being devoured. Fireballs crashed down like the sun itself was falling onto the planet. The ground shook non-stop, but Dom and Kang were nowhere to be seen. Around them, the fierce battles between other beasts raged on without pause. In another city, war had also broken out. Dark Tiger let out a thunderous roar and charged ahead with his pack, launching an attack on a horde of creatures that looked totally unfamiliar. It was a battle of numbers against numbers, while the biggest challenge was left to White Tiger, who was flying Xiaolan higher and higher into the sky, trying to give her a better vantage point to figure out how to destroy the enemy's strange device. White Tiger soared like a bird, the ground getting farther away by the second. Xiaolan was starting to get worried. The air was getting thin, almost gone, but still bearable. As they pierced through the thick white clouds, the sky above was strangely peaceful, so different from the chaos below. But something didn't sit right with Xiaolan. She looked back, and there it was, a giant blue shield covering the top of the clouds, inscribed with glowing symbols stretching far beyond what the eye could see. A magic formation? Damn it, and it's connected to the city where her comrades were. She didn't know what it would do, but it was definitely nothing good. It had to be destroyed, no matter what. Her mind was racing. White Tiger had already tried attacking the Black Pillar earlier, but didn't even leave a scratch. So how the hell were they supposed to break it now? Suddenly, a voice rang out next to her. "What are you two doing, flying this high up?" Turns out Peregrine Falcon had chased after them without them even noticing. Xiaolan too focused to realize. Perfect timing. You got here just in time. Back in the 6th city, where the beast tide had hit, Thorne was being attacked from all directions. She was caught in a pincer move, enemies surrounding her on all sides. Her vines whipped out constantly, both defending and attacking. Not far off, Lang Feng's swarm of rats had reached full-grown form. Ferocious as hell, they growled non-stop. One clambered over the other, lunging at the magical beasts, tearing into them until the prey was completely dead before moving on to the next. Not far from the city wall, huge sand mounds created by Qing Zhao continued to support Thorne. His mastery over the earth element had already detected a giant beast that looked like some enormous worm. With that size, only Qing Zhao could handle it. After choking the beast out, the next target was the god who'd been hovering in midair the whole time. He hadn't made a move yet, but the stench of hostility was unmistakable. This was the first time Thorne had ever come face to face with a god of this planet. She'd only heard stories about Lava Dragon fighting them, but instead of charging in with Qing Zhao, she told him, "This place is yours." Then she leapt forward, flinging a bright red vine toward the god. He was caught off guard, didn't dodge in time, and just like that, Thorne had him wrapped up like a wet rag and slammed him into the ground. No resistance, no struggle. The god was taken down very clean. "We got him!" Thorne let out a cheer, but her eyes were still locked on him. Why was it so easy? From the ground, a column of powerful spiritual energy shot up from below, refracting light into shimmering rainbow hues. Thorne felt a chill run down her spine. She slowly backed away from that glowing column. A moment later, the god reappeared, this time with 4 pairs of dazzling golden wings. Their colors were the complete opposite of his usual dark vibe, each feather radiating a divine glow. "Come," he said, "praise me, sing your worship to me, you sinners." The god had changed form, but the woman before him didn't show even a flicker of surprise like he'd expected. Thorne's hair blew in the wind, not giving a damn about the nonsense the god was spouting. Thinking she hadn't heard, he repeated himself, "Praise me, you sinners." But she snapped back, "I've shut up already, and you're still yapping? Playing tricks!" With a fierce wave of her arm, all her vines shot forward at her command, launching a full-on assault. Thorne's vines had evolved to the point they were like living, thinking creatures. The moment they neared their target, the tips opened into sharp-toothed maws and sank right into the god's face. The teeth dug in and clamped down tight. She growled her command, "Drain every drop of its blood." But the god casually grabbed the vine and pulled it out with ease. The vine tip still squirmed, trying to get back at him, but it couldn't. From this angle, his wings looked truly stunning, pure white like a real angel's. He stood there, calm and graceful, removing the vine as he said coolly, "An angel has no blood. Why won't you praise me? Isn't this pure holy appearance of mine worthy of your worship?" Thorne shot back coldly, "There's only one person worth my praise, and you're not it." More vines burst from her back, writhing in midair, lifting her up as she glared down at the god like a predator. Compared to someone shedding fluffy white feathers with every flap of his wings, Thorne looked like a straight-up demon, completely opposite of the god. But just because he had white wings didn't mean he was kind or merciful. Not receiving the worship he demanded, he sneered, "Then let me offer a moment of silence for your coming death, because next, I will crush and torment you." Now they could see his face more clearly. He looked mostly human, except his skin was the color of dark cement. His 3 golden pupils, packed tightly into each eye socket, gave off a chilling glow that could make anyone's blood run cold. Under the gloomy sky, a massive statue of Qing Zhao, built to resemble himself, stood tall above the giant portal at the city. The quiet portal lit up with blue light, and a creature was teleported through, shooting into the sky. It was Peregrine Falcon Big Bird. He shouted loudly, "Qing Zhao, Langfeng, Xiaolan wants you two to destroy that stone pillar." The two were still deep in battle with magical beasts. Langfeng was about to ask why, when Big Bird quickly explained, "It's powering up a magic formation. I don't know what it'll do, but we have to destroy it. I can't stay. I need to warn the others." With that, the Big Bird flared his wings, his eyes flashing, and shot off like a golden lightning bolt, aiming to return to the portal and head for another city. But a beam of light blasted down from the sky, locking onto Big Bird, clearly trying to take him out. The skilled falcon rolled midair, and the energy beam barely grazed under his wings before smashing straight into the portal. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the air. Turns out the real target wasn't Big Bird, it was the portal, and he'd almost died flying back into it. Qingzhao yelled out, "Brother!" But the thick cloud of dust hid everything. With a strike that precise, they knew for sure the portal was destroyed. High up on a tall pillar, the god slowly retracted his power, muttering, "Traitors don't deserve to live. Everything must be pure, including the elements." The energy returned to him, merging with an orb of the same color under his cloak. No one knew what this god's body was made of. His face was vague, almost unreadable, but he saw them. Two figures, one big, one small, charging toward him with full force. They were dropping down on the black pillar with everything they had. From inside the thick smoke, they couldn't see anything but each other. "Lang Feng," Qingzhao shouted. He didn't need to say more. Lang Feng understood instantly. He raised a pitch-black column with both hands. It was the Blade of Darkness, formed from the pure shadow energy he commanded, his weapon to strike the pillar down. "Watch me destroy this place, completely." Crack! The sound of the Blade of Darkness striking the black pillar echoed through the air. Shadows burst in all directions from the sheer impact. But the sound was strange. Why did it sound like a smack? No dust, no cracks, not even a scratch on the stone. Lang Feng dropped to one knee, pressing the blade harder, but it was like a pencil pressing on a chopping board. Couldn't pierce it, couldn't even dent it. Oh shit. Lang Feng was livid. He'd gone all out and didn't leave so much as a mark. Then, two blinding beams shot from the opposite side, slicing clean through Qingzhao and Lang Feng's bodies. They'd been cut in half. 3 golden eyes glowed from within the smoke, and the god's voice rang out. "You can't destroy elemental matter with physical force. Not me, not this tower." And of course, what's said must be heard, right? The two halves of Qingzhao and Lang Feng hovered midair, then began to stitch themselves back together. So they weren't dead. One wielded earth, the other darkness. Both were elemental masters. Too bad for the god, talking big about elemental power, only to run into 2 elemental beasts. But then, the god changed form again, growing massive into a strange, monstrous shape. For scale, Qingzhao's already as tall as a 2-story building, but this thing, 10 times his size. As it came into view, the god wasn't just black anymore. He was streaked with bloody red and had 7 giant eyes, arranged like a papaya leaf. From within that grotesque form, the god spoke. "What's your ranking? Isn't there a list of the 10 most dangerous beasts? Sigma and N, ranked 8th and 9th, were killed by you. What is your ranking? What the hell? This crazy god's asking nonsense. If they're humans, they're obviously not on that damn beast ranking. They never even compared themselves to others. How would they know?" So they both shouted, "You're going to be disappointed. You're not even worthy of them." The god stepped forward, revealing his horrifying true form in all its glory. Beneath the red patch full of eyes was a jagged row of razor-sharp teeth. It seemed like he didn't have arms, but instead had 3 beast-like legs, awkward-looking, bent all out of shape. "Next," he growled, "I'll tear you to pieces." Some pure white feathers stood out starkly as they clashed with a mass of blood-red vines, now grown thick as house pillars. The vines lunged at the winged god, wrapping around him, twisting into layers upon layers, then squeezed tight. Crack! Crack! You could hear him getting crushed. Feathers fell like snow from the wings. But the real shocker came next. Though his torso was completely bound and couldn't move, the energy burst out from his wings. Thorne didn't expect that. It came so close she had to throw herself backward just in time, barely dodging. Who the hell would have guessed those wings could shoot energy? It grazed her face, leaving a deep gash. Good thing she had shut her eyes. Pain hit hard, and her vines loosened slightly. The god leaned forward with a smug grin. "Pawak, your attacks are useless," he laughed. Thorne had had enough. She lashed a vine forward and ripped his head clean off. His cloak tore into 2 halves. She moved fast, no hesitation. The head, still wrapped in the cloak, dropped like a rock and slammed into the ground with a loud thud, blood spraying everywhere. The body stood there like a statue, unmoving. Wherever her vines landed, it just stayed still, but the severed head flopped around on the ground, teeth and lips all twisted and raw, yelling like mad. "You damned son of a look what you've done. How dare you insult a god?" Another mouth chimed in. "Don't be so vulgar." A third one moaned, "Oh Lord, please forgive me." The sight made Thorne's scalp itchy. This thing claimed to be a god but looked like pure nightmare fuel. Even after getting its head chopped off, it could still talk, but at least bled. So the head might just be its weak spot. Without wasting a second, Thorne swung her vines again, wrapping tight around the ugly head. She sealed its blabbering mouths and once more unleashed her fang-tipped tendrils, determined to drain every last drop of blood from this freak. But within the tightening mass, one yellow eye peeked out at her mockingly. "You're so naive," it said. And then, boom! It self-destructed. A tiny light orb suddenly exploded into a massive energy sphere, growing faster than Thorne could react. In a blink, it was right on her. It surged outward, devouring everything in its path. Thorne's vines were nowhere to be seen. Could she have been taken down by the blast too? If she survived, she'd witness this god's so-called divine form, a mangled mess of mouths and eyes, with fat pupils and slimy black tendrils curling all over. Disgusting beyond words that this is what it called God's physique. For most people, seeing that monster up close would have made their knees buckle. It stood tall, looming in the dust, checking to see if Thorne was still alive. Then out of nowhere, 5 blood-red tendrils, her signature, whipped out from the haze and slammed straight into the god's body. But they couldn't pierce that pitch-black skin. The impact just bounced off with a loud clank, 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 like shovels hitting steel. Didn't hurt him at all, but that damned ego of his took a hit. The god curled his nasty toothed mouth in disgust. "You think I'll let you sneak attack me again and again? How naive!" "Oh yeah, then get ready to be disappointed." Thorne was suddenly right behind him, right behind that shaggy, misshapen head. He hadn't even noticed. She'd masked her spiritual energy so well, he only realized she was there the moment she spoke. Her vines shot forward, striking at the back of his neck, all of them focusing their strength on punching through that thick hide. Boom, boom, boom. Thunderous impacts echoed again and again, until finally she broke through. Her vines stabbed through his nape and burst out through his mouth, whipping around wildly and making his already disgusting face look even more grotesque. But he didn't seem to feel pain. He let Thorne stab through his neck, then suddenly burst out laughing. "Ha! Is that all you got?" He didn't even try to tear off the vines. Then, eyes began to rise from his back. Dozens of them, tangled between slippery black tentacles. They looked just like the eyes on his face, but these glowed purple, a clear sign of energy activation. And sure enough, seconds later, beams of light blasted toward Thorne all at once, giving her no chance to dodge. Hit by several at once, she coughed up blood. Her whole body was bruised and bleeding, but her eyes never left him. Her vines writhed forward, weaving into thick ropes, grabbing the god tight and wrapping him into a blood-red bundle, lifting him high. She wasn't aiming to drain him anymore. Now her goal was clear. Don't let this monster split apart. Crush it completely. The vines moved at blazing speed, and this time, they actually managed to muzzle that twisted mouth of his. Even with his razor-sharp teeth, there were too many vines. He couldn't bite through them all. Just as his entire body was fully bound, whoosh! Beams of light flashed out from every direction, the same kind that injured Thorne earlier, now tearing her vines apart all over again. She had more experience this time, and dodged better, but they were too many. Even with all her effort, she was still wounded. Her skin was no match for that monster's, sliced open in seconds, blood pouring out fast. "No, I will definitely suck you dry here," Thorne roared. Her fury only made her vines tighten more. Her will was unmistakable, and the monster god could feel the pressure crushing down on him. But he wasn't scared. Far from it. He threw his head back and laughed. "Ha!" Full of twisted joy, and kept firing off bursts of spiritual energy like he was hosting some damn Coachella rave. At the tip of Thorne's tentacle was another one of her own tentacles, wriggling like crazy, as if it were playing some hilarious game. Even that bulging eyeball of hers got snatched by the red tentacle, but it still strained upward to provoke Thorne. "So that's all you've got, huh?" It stared at the girl in front of it, now battered and bruised all over, still stubbornly clinging onto some vines, trying to attack it. Burst out laughing, delighted. "Well then, looks like you're out of options." Suddenly, it yanked its head upward with a violent jolt, dragging the tightly wrapped vines up along with it. The monster opened its gaping mouth wide and fired a blast of spirit energy straight at Thorne's head. When she dodged, it chased after her. The spirit blast could even curve through the air, something never seen before. All the red vines snapped back, now protecting their master. Any that could whip, Thorne used to fend off the incoming blows, but gradually, she got forced into a glowing sphere made of the monster's energy. It was like being trapped in a whirlwind. One slip, and she'd be torn apart. That hairy face showed a hint of surprise. Surrounded by divine light and still not dead? Tough girl? But that wasn't meant to be a compliment, because right then, he conjured up an even bigger sphere of spirit energy. No need for finesse now. He knew this thing would blow Thorne to bits, no escape. The sphere blazed so brightly that the whole scene faded into a blur. For a moment, it was like the light sucked everything into it, leaving only darkness behind. A single beam of light slid across his face, and the creature grinned with twisted joy. At last, everything returns to nothingness. Right at that moment, something felt off. The blinding blast of spirit energy, once so fierce, started to shrink, then suddenly fizzled out. Gone, not even a trace left in the night sky. The godlike beast threw its head back, letting out a long, savage laugh. The kind of laugh you hear when someone's about to crush their enemy. He was charging up, ready to go all in. Then, splurt, a spray of blood burst from his eye socket. His pupil widened, completely stunned. Not just that tiny eye, every single creature embedded in his body began to spew blood all at once. Tiny jets of blood burst out with shocking force and suddenness. Then all those mouths full of teeth scattered across his body started hacking up blood too, coughing, bleeding, spraying everywhere. What the hell is happening? He spun around, checking every part of his body. Everywhere was suffering the same horror. He couldn't figure it out until his gaze met Thorne's, eyes brimming with murderous fury. That's when it hit him. It was her. But why the hell is my blood boiling? What the hell did that woman do to me? My spirit energy. It's leaking. He panicked, confused, then terrified, screaming, "No, no, what is this?" As blood poured non-stop from his eyes in thick streams, the tiny cuts now became rivers. His whole body was drenched in his own blood. He tried desperately to stop the bleeding, but there was no way to hold it back. I was too careless. If this keeps up, I'll die here. No, I can't die. I have to abandon this body. Then his body popped like an overinflated balloon. Boom! But this time, it wasn't something Thorne caused. He'd done it himself. The ground was painted red with his blood and pieces of him, and among that pile, something twitched. Damn it! She almost sucked all the spiritual energy out of me. That damned woman can't rest in peace even after death. Having escaped, his eyes turned upward. If the others find out about this, how the hell am I going to show my face? Using the dust and debris around him as cover, he floated upward, searching for a way out. Deal with it later. For now, I've still won. Next I'll kill. Each god from the alien race had the ability to reconstruct their body as long as the core remained. This one was no different from Un and Sigma that day. Just escape, find a new host, and start over. Simple. Everything was going smoothly until something slammed down from above, straight through his skull, out of his mouth. What the? There were only two people here. Other than him, that woman should have been torn apart by the explosion just now. Who else could have hit him? But then he realized it was one of her red tentacles. Same old sneak attack. Classic Thorne. From behind the god, 3 red tentacles pierced through the god's head. Turns out Thorne wasn't dead. In the moment the god self-destructed, she sacrificed a few tentacles to form a shield. They oozed out like slime, but inside, she was perfectly fine. The god stared at her like he'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. He shrieked, You're not dead! How are you still alive?" And before he could finish freaking out, 2 more Thorne rose from the bloody, slimy mess. Same figures, same look, but without eyeballs. Clones or puppets? And more shocking, they'd been hiding in his own tentacles, his own body parts, now crawling out of them. And he had no idea. You? Since when? If you're so curious, I'll gladly explain, she sneered. From the start, I wasn't draining your blood. I was injecting mine into you, destroying you from the inside out. So the body explosion he thought he'd caused himself? Nope. All part of Thorne's plan. Total internal detonation, her doing. Just so happened he also wanted to blow himself up to escape. What a coincidence. But all of it had been in her calculations. You're strong, unbelievably strong, but you underestimated me. So what if you're rank 5 transcendent? Doesn't mean you can't die. Furious, he launched at her full force, jaws wide, aiming to sink his teeth into her real body. That damn pride of his pushed him to madness. Just one bite, that's all he wanted, to ease the rage. Thorne stepped back, just in time to dodge the ferocious chomp, but the force of it still knocked her flying. She crashed into the ground, leaving a gaping hole where the bloody remains tumbled in. The god didn't give a damn. Rage consumed him. He roared, "So what if I lost this body? I'm still a rank 4 transcendent. Killing me is useless. It'll only make the other gods stronger." But Thorne had no interest in hearing him out. Her tentacles zipped out, sealed his mouth, locked his eyes, clamped down on those buck teeth of his. Red tentacles from all 3 Thorne, the real one and 2 clones, wrapped around him from 3 directions, lifted him into the air, bound tightly like a cocoon. Even as she was about to crush his final eye, he kept straining to look at her, grinning. He didn't say a word, just cackled like a lunatic. Ha! Thorne frowned, puzzled, but she didn't bother asking anything. Her tentacles tightened, crushed the base of the god's form. The maniacal laughter cut off. All that remained was the wet squish of blood on her tentacles. Thorne stood still, staring at him, silent. Killing the god with a cold, decisive grip, Thorne showed exactly why she had been one of the 9 great beasts of Misty Mountain since day one. She didn't get many scenes, but every one she did get, deadly precise. Only this time, the injuries were heavier than usual. Once she was sure that the god was truly dead by her hand, she finally allowed herself to bend over, panting hard, pressing down on her wounds. The tentacles curled back around her, wrapping her tightly, as if whispering about how drained they were. So tired, there's barely any blood left in this body. Just wanna lie down a bit. Her mind started to blur. The urge to sleep began to take over. The tentacles kept forcing what little blood they had left back into her, giving her a bit of clarity. She kept reminding herself, gotta hurry, go help the others. But whether she would make it there or not, that was still a big question. Because back in City 6, the battle was raging on, brutal and relentless. Swish! Lang Feng slid across the surface, nearly falling over. When he managed to stay on his feet, he coughed up blood, clearly took a heavy hit just now. His eyes stayed locked onto the grotesque god up ahead. Qingzhao had also retreated, both of them tense and cautious. Then Qingzhao let out a roar, forming the earth element around him into a giant hand, and slammed straight toward the god's smug little face, targeting that row of perfect, razor-sharp teeth, the ones that looked like they could chew through anything. That must have been a weak spot, because the god immediately leapt back, barely dodging the crushing blow. Even so, Qingzhao managed to rip something off the guy, pissing him off enough to counterattack right away. That nasty-looking part on his belly scrunched up like squinting eyes, and from it came glowing spirit orbs. They lit up fiercely and let out a boiling bloop 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 sound before blasting off into massive beams of light, shredding Qingzhao's sand form into chunks. He tried to hold his ground, but the pressure was overwhelming. He gave up. Those hits weren't fatal, but constantly reforming his body drained him fast. After the barrage ended, Qingzhao was left gasping, too worn out to strike again. The god, still fresh as ever, was about to pounce, when Lang Feng summoned a massive dark element mace, its tip sharper than anger and twice as bony. He hurled it straight at the god, aiming right above the teeth. That seemed to be the softest spot. But before the weapon could hit, purple barriers sprang up and blocked it. No matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't go any deeper. The god opened his mouth wide and fired a huge beam of light. Since it came straight from the mouth, there was no need to charge it up. It wasn't as strong, but more than enough to blast Lang Feng's mace into dust. Qingzhao formed another giant hand just in time for his buddy to leap back. His sand body rustled, trying to pull itself back together. Fighting on top of this dark pillar wasn't great for Qingzhao. No new dirt or sand to work with. He only had what he carried. The two of them had been holding this spot for a while now and still couldn't land a real blow. Even the proud Lang Feng had to admit, this god was absurdly strong. His power ran deep, deeper than expected. A streak of light shot past their backs like a bird in flight. They thought it was reinforcements, especially when it slammed straight into the god. But weirdly enough, once the purple glow wrapped around him, the god's energy surged, and it smelled different. No doubt about it, that was power returning to the whole after one of the god had died. He squinted and recognized it. That's number 12's strength? He's been killed. For a moment, his shock turned to glee. His whole ugly mug twisted into a grin. He laughed wildly, shouting, "That's awesome!" His body burned with bloodlust, now fused with fresh spirit energy. What the hell's happening? Lang Feng wanted to ask Qingzhao. They'd been fighting like hell, and now this thing was getting stronger for no reason. Qingzhao noticed it too. He just didn't know why. Seeing the two confused meatheads, the god couldn't help himself. After all, he was still the one in control here. What harm could spilling a little info do? Let me enlighten you, he sneered. No matter who it is, when one of us gods dies, their power doesn't disappear. It gets shared with the rest of us. Our strength will only grow. Sure enough, the shock they tried to hide still showed clearly on Qingzhao and Lang Feng's faces. They were facing a puzzle, probably the hardest one ever. The godlike figure seemed pretty satisfied with that, so he added a few more words. Now I'm nothing like I was before. This is me, the evolved version. At the second city, the battlefield was just as fierce. Amid the swirling dust blowing in the opposite direction, the kangaroo squinted its eyes, digging its claws and legs into the ground, resisting the push. With his newly awakened god form, Dom stood tall and proud. Looks like you're about to add a few more scars, huh? Kang wasn't the type to back down either. In this fight, he wanted to be the only loudmouth left standing. Dom? Not even worth his attention. Hearing the battle god's words, he chuckled. Too bad. Except for that fox, the rest of them, all dead. The reply seemed unrelated to Dom's taunt, but the kangaroo was making it clear. Nine Tails was the only one he actually respected. The others, dream on. It was when a bright beam of light came crashing down from the sky, fusing with Dom's signature aura, like pouring oil into a roaring fire. The war god's whole body lit up in flames, power surging to new heights. It was like he was feeling something for the first time and paused, just for a moment. But the most stunned one was Kang. What the hell did I just see? He got stronger. Again? Dom didn't waste time explaining. He stomped the ground hard, drawing up a wild force, and launched himself straight at the kangaroo. Before he could react, Dom's razor-sharp fangs were already behind his back, fists swinging with deadly precision. There was no sound, only blurs of movement. The strike came too close, too fast. Kang couldn't dodge. Dom's fist smashed into its head with a loud crack. His face nearly flew off his neck, body twisted sideways. He wasn't dead, and his head hadn't flown off, but Dom had landed a clean hit, right in the eyes. The goal was obvious: blind the enemy. Next, Dom grabbed the kangaroo's tail. Using it like a handle, he swung the entire beast, smashing it left and right. Boom after boom echoed around, more for Dom to vent his anger than to do serious damage. He growled while slamming it around. Once I'm done here, I'm gonna find that freak tree and revenge myself. Kang's eyes weren't fully ruined, but his vision was blurred. Being thrown around just to be someone's punching bag made him mad as hell. He yanked himself free from Dom's grip, flexed every muscle in its body, then let out a wild roar. From its body shot out streaks of dark energy. Dom squinted, trying to figure it out, but it was too late. Time for a taste test. The kangaroo's right arm turned pitch black. Charged with all his speed and power, he launched a punch straight at Dom. The punch stopped, suspended midair. Kang was stunned. How could a full-force punch land on Dom's nose like a butterfly landing on a leaf, and he didn't even budge? Dom snorted, a sound so simple, yet so full of arrogance and mockery. Then he clenched his fist to strike back, hissing, "Too bad I couldn't pierce that freak tree before, but this time, I'll punch a hole in you." He drove his claws straight through the kangaroo's body. The all-out strike hadn't even made Kang flinch, but now, this move looked like he was draining his soul. Still, give up? Hell no. He grabbed Dom's arm with both hands. Dom thought Kang was trying to pull away, so he pushed harder, locking his arm deeper into the kangaroo's gut. But then he realized the kangaroo wasn't trying to escape but was forcing the arm to stay in, holding it in place. "Leave it to you," Kang screamed to the sky, blood pouring from his mouth. Dom looked up too, just in time to see a huge furry figure dropping down, wielding a gleaming axe. It was Bull Demon. Big Bro had arrived and was roaring. Time to die. His whole body crashed down with a bang, kicking up smoke tens of meters high. You couldn't tell who was friend or foe anymore. No wonder the little kangaroo dared to hold Dom down with its body. It must have been Bull Demon quietly adding gravitational force from above, keeping Dom from moving. Bull Demon stood there, his horns crackling with electricity. Let me tell you, this kangaroo, before and after joining the Misty Mountains, was always famous for its arrogance. Ranked just under 1 and above 10,000, it usually went head-to-head solo. No help, no tricks, just fists and pride. But today was different. Today, it took a few steps back, just to take in the massive, wild-maned figure of Bull Demon, wielding that molten axe with a blade forever glowing like it just came out the forge. It was Bull Demon who spoke first. One look at Dom's smug face, and he was already ticked off. "You again! Last time our master didn't finish you. You should be grateful you're still breathing." "Ha! You got some nerve." Dom let out a crazed laugh like he'd just heard the best joke in the world. That freak tree couldn't even kill him. Now some second-rate cattle wanted to lecture him? All right then, listen up. War God's got an announcement, Dom growled. Step 1, turn this place to ashes. If I can't have it, none of you will. And then I'll deliver your heads to that freak tree myself. Got it? Even though they were still far apart, the moment Bull Demon raised his hand, Dom could feel it, an invisible weight pressing down on every inch of him. His skin and fur felt like they were about to slide off. His head was being forced down, and it took everything he had to keep his neck steady. Gravity. Damn it, a mutant beast with this kind of power? Seeing Dom slightly buckling under the pressure, Bull Demon let out a satisfied roar. You want to chop off our heads? Then beat me first. He pointed a finger, like saying, this is just the beginning. Someone as stubborn as Dom wasn't going to be scared off by a little gravity show. He surged forward like a flash, fists clenched with rage. You want to die? Let's throw down. Kang had already experienced Bull Demon's gravity tricks. Seeing Dom charging through it all so easily left him wide-eyed. Dom looked like he wasn't even being slowed down. Not bad, but Bull Demon wasn't even trying yet. He just stood there, calmly, then cranked up the pressure another 30%. Just like that, Dom's steps turned heavy as hell, like his feet were chained with lead. He dropped to his knees, still a good distance from Bull Demon. There Dom was, pinned to the ground, while Bull Demon stood chillin' like a king. Gritting his teeth, Dom spat out what everyone already knew. Gravity, it's getting stronger. Hell yeah, it was. With a gravity move that strong, Bull Demon had every right to strut. He walked up to Dom, snorted, and looked down with disdain. So even gods can kneel, huh? Dom was fuming. He wanted to hurl insults, but even his jaw was locked tight by the crushing force. He had been in god mode ever since the fight with the kangaroo, ready to throw down, but now his legs were bolted in place. Frustration boiled over. He was about to curse when bam! A heavy, top-tier punch slammed down on his skull. Crack! His helmet cracked open like a dry shell. The ground around exploded in waves, leaving huge concentric fractures, with Dom's cracked head at the epicenter. Even Kang, who'd been eavesdropping nearby, had to raise an arm to shield its face. Bull Demon raised his battle axe high and brought it down hard. The blade flashed a fierce purple as it carved through the air. Muscles flexed, face tensed. He let out a fierce yell and slammed his weapon into the damn war god next to him. Dust burst out in massive waves. Dom was crushed down into the top of the black pillar, which now had several cracks snaking across it. Even with the clear power advantage, Bull Demon suddenly saw a hand reaching out through the smoke. Too close, shit, no way to dodge. He let out a startled ah, just as a blinding golden flash lit up the air, like someone blasted a high-watt bulb right into his face. It was a split-second, do-or-die moment. Somehow, he managed to tilt his head just in time. That golden beam shot past, barely missing him, then shot into the sky, where it burst into a cluster of tiny suns. They were orbs of pure spiritual energy, buzzing with an electric hum. The power was so intense, even their colors looked like they were about to burst. Yet Dom alone managed to create a dozen of them floating around him, and he stood right in the middle, controlling them all by himself. Looked pretty damn cool and badass, not gonna lie. Turns out, ever since that resurrection, Dom had stocked up a bunch of new skills to go with his shiny new body, just so he wouldn't get his face smashed in like the other day. Who's Bull Demon, huh? That guy's gone toe-to-toe with all kinds of badass enemies. The axe in his hand worked like a lightning rod, sucking in Dom's energy and blasting it out in every direction. The force was so intense that the air around them started spiraling, the whooshing sounds growing louder and louder, until Dom began to charge up and launch those fireballs forward. That was when things hit a climax. It might have been a one-on-one, but both of them were going all in, blasting out wide-range, high-damage moves. Bull Demon roared, the massive muscles on his arm swinging the axe hard into one of the fireballs. Bullseye! That big old thing caved in with a deep dent, the surface wobbling slightly before snapping back and flying straight back to its sender. Dom did not see that coming. The fireball slammed right into his face, and he had to fend off his own attack. Boy, was he pissed off. Screw it, it got bounced back. As he blocked, Dom pushed harder, throwing more and more at Bull Demon. After all, that guy wasn't fighting barehanded, he only had one axe. Bup, 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 bup. Bull Demon's arms swung non-stop, but the barrage was so heavy, he started having to pause a beat with each ball. They crowded together, crashing into each other. Then all at once, boom, they exploded. Big ones, small ones, all of them gone in a blinding blast that erased Bull Demon from sight. The kangaroo, meanwhile, was too busy gawking at the energy wave sweeping toward him, way too strong, to even notice whether his teammate was still breathing. If Bull Demon didn't take down Dom, he was toast too. That giant hole in his chest, still very much there. Out of nowhere, a strange breeze swept over the top of the pillar, clearing out the thick dust above, though the base was still buried. Bull Demon stood firm, axe in hand, glaring through the haze, as if he knew Dom was staring right back at him. Damn, you really got me good with that hit. Dom emerged from the other side, clear as day. You're stronger than that useless guy over there, huh? Their exchange was short. They both pointed at the kangaroo and called him a weakling who didn't deserve to even stand in the same arena. Surprisingly, Kang didn't even get mad. He just clenched his teeth when he realized Dom's still alive after the attack. I'm the second great beast in the Misty Mountains, the Bull Demon. The guy finally pointed his weapon at his opponent and introduced himself, after nearly tearing the guy to shreds. If we're doing intros now, you know Dom wouldn't sit this one out. He clenched his fist and shot back. I'm the god of this world, ranked 7th, but my power nearly caught up to the 6th. With the announcement, his whole body began glowing in a wild, unsettling way. His appearance changed. The energy radiating from him was totally different. One of the gods had just died somewhere far away, and their power had flown into the ones still alive. Bull Demon narrowed his eyes, trying to figure it out. Does this guy still have more transformations up his sleeve? He didn't say anything, just watched as Dom kept going with his dramatic speech. Now, Dom was holding a long beam of light, like a weapon. You know, we've got something in common. We both use axes. He stepped forward. Let's go for another round. With how Dom looked now, no one would believe he was a god of war. But if you told people he crawled out of hell, they'd probably nod in agreement. Scary as he was, Bull Demon still charged in. He slammed his axe into Dom's, the collision sparking a shower of flames. They clashed again and again, neither backing down, neither gaining the upper hand. So Bull Demon cranked things up, added 40% more gravity into his moves. The ground beneath them cracked and crumbled, forcing both into the air, still locked in combat. Then bam! Dom found an opening and punched Bull Demon right in the face. It didn't hurt much, didn't even leave a mark, but it did surprise him. That gravity everyone feared so much didn't do squat to Dom. Bull Demon's confused expression didn't go unnoticed. Dom grinned, his hand still pressed against Bull Demon's face. So, you're at the early stage rank 5, huh? But you're this powerful? Ever thought about becoming my subordinate? He extended a hand. This was the first time anyone had ever tried to recruit Bull Demon straight up. And in case you forgot, Bull Demon wasn't even invited to the Misty Mountains originally. He got dragged there by force. Later, because it was chill, he stuck around. Then, thanks to some rare tree giving him crazy power, he swore eternal loyalty. Bull Demon froze for 2 full seconds after hearing Dom's offer. Then, with eyes blazing red, he snapped back in fury. Are you insulting me? Cut that crap out. That wasn't something Bull Demon even needed to think about. Just hearing it made his blood boil. The axe in his hand crackled with streaks of spiritual energy, clenched tight in his grip. If 40% gravity doesn't work on you, then I'll take it even further. Dom opened his crooked mouth, ready to shoot back. But he hadn't expected Bull Demon's rage to spike off the charts like that. Most importantly, he had no idea this beast could crank up the gravity even more. For other creatures, 40% was already a nightmare level. I'll crush you with even stronger gravity. The weight pressing down on both Bull Demon and Dom, and the space around them, skyrocketed. From 40% to 41, 42, 43, then shot up to 48, 50, 55, then zipped to 60. By the time it hit 70%, Dom had already dropped to one knee, the blade of his axe scraping against the ground. Bull Demon no longer wanted to use gravity as just a support tool in this fight. He wanted to use it to kill Dom, plain and simple. I'll squash you into a pile of meat, he roared. Dom would die by his hands today. At that very moment, out of nowhere, a memory slipped into Bull Demon's mind. There was one day Honey Badger had to catch leaves and pour life essence into the gaping wound of his buddy. There'd been a deep slash on the monkey's waist. No one knew what the heck he did to get hurt that bad. Took just a few seconds and he was back on his feet, full of energy, spirits high, leaping onto the head of the mutated boar. Their howls echoed through the entire misty forest as they dashed full speed through the trees, wild and free, soaking in every moment of their carefree days as the legendary Avengers of Misty Mountain. Watching those goofy kids fooling around, Bull Demon, who was chilling with Emperor Crocodile at the time, couldn't help but chuckle. To be fair, during the Great War against humanity, those 3 had already died once. And now look at them, like that memory never even existed, still grinning from ear to ear, like kids who grew up in peacetime. Crocodile, of course, remembered that battle. More than anyone, it had been one of the most hunted beasts by humans back then. But what really mattered was that everyone had fought with everything they had, determined to protect this place. After all, this was their home. If even this place could be taken away from them, then it let the sentence trail off, and together with Bull Demon, stared into the golden glow of the setting sun, whispering, "Then, where in this world would we ever belong? Emperor Crocodile, you're like a sharp blade of the Misty Mountains." The crocodile had no idea what that meant. Why was Big Bro saying something like that out of the blue? The crocodile didn't ask. Bull Demon didn't explain either. He just muttered, "And Big Sis is the one leading this place." Sounded simple enough. But then, out of nowhere, a question sparked in his mind. Then what about me? That thought echoed again, just as the gravity Bull Demon controlled hit 70%, pinning down the entire space around them. Everything was sealed off from the outside by a strange white light. Dom's head was bulging with thick veins as he strained with everything he had, trying to hang on. His body was on the brink of collapse, but that damn mouth of his still moved, refusing to give in. Damn it, freaking insane. The gravity kept ramping up, stronger and stronger. No one knew where it would stop. 100%, 200%. What was Bull Demon's limit? Even the kangaroo just standing outside the zone could feel the invisible pressure bearing down on him. Even though the space around him wasn't directly hit by the gravity, it was hard to breathe. The air around him felt frozen solid. His wound and his entire body felt heavier. Misty Mountain's Bull Demon, just how deep have you been hiding your true power? Looking at Bull Demon, standing calm and silent within the crushing gravity field of his own creation, everyone present had the same thought. Where is this guy's limit? Because even though he was the one casting it, Bull Demon had to fight against his own technique too. Down beneath the Black Pillar, where the shaman tribe was locked in fierce battle with the mutants for every inch of land, someone lifted their head and stared at the beam of light above. The air felt so heavy. Even from this far away, they felt the pressure. How much worse must it be for those up there? Dom knew that he had to break free from Bull Demon's attack zone, but even moving a single step was insanely hard. Just standing up on its own feet was already a challenge. Not to mention, every slow move could be picked up by the enemy. The moment it managed to spread its legs a bit, the sky above suddenly darkened. A huge boulder loomed right over its head, and right when it couldn't move, if that thing fell, it'd be crushed entirely. It knew this was bad, tried to inch its body out of the gravity zone, but didn't make it in time. The rock came crashing down with a thunderous boom, heavy like 1,000 tons. Gravity increased on the boulder too, making its impact even deadlier than normal. But just then, a golden beam shot up from below, splitting the rock in two, sending the pieces flying toward Bull Demon. He was shocked. Even in the gravity field he created, he had to strain just to move. Yet that thing came flying so fast, Bull Demon let out a loud roar, lunged forward, and used his lava axe to clash head-on with the beam of light coming from Dom. On the massive blade of his axe, clear cracks started to appear. Still, Bull Demon didn't stop, pushing the axe down hard onto that beam, ignoring the harsh screeching sound echoing around. The beam of light grew stronger, then broke free from the gravity zone. Its terrifying power was plain to see. It had resisted Bull Demon's gravity. The beam shot out, exploding fiercely in the air, like a furious sun, completely overshadowing the size of the gravity column. But Dom didn't follow that beam out. He was still standing inside the gravity zone, with the axe still lodged in the ground after splitting the rock. Looks like your gravity still isn't strong enough to hold back the light. Look at you, using such a strong power. You're not feeling too great either, are you? Somehow, he was now moving swiftly, swinging the axe like gravity meant nothing. Let's see now. Will you crush me first, or will I kill you first? The raging beam swept toward Bull Demon again. He threw his axe straight into his opponent. The axe spun several times before slamming right into the middle of the beam, as if it were hitting something solid, not just light like Dom said. Then Bull Demon strained so hard blood burst from his mouth, staining his dark fur. He unleashed the wild beast domain, and his muscular arms transformed into the forelegs of a wild buffalo. His horns and head bulked up, legs kicked the ground with force, launching Bull Demon forward in a charging strike, gravity gore. Meanwhile, the surrounding gravity didn't let up, doubling the damage of the blow. Blood gushed from Dom's body as his veins bulged from trying to resist. The speed combined with gravity made the impact even stronger. Dom was hurting, and Bull Demon wasn't done yet. His full strength still hadn't peaked. Dom was starting to panic. It has to end now, Dom thought. Spirit energy was draining too fast here. It had to use up a massive amount just to counter this gravity. Right in that tense moment, Bull Demon suddenly asked, "Who am I?" The question made Dom's eyes go wide. "You're asking me who you are. Bro, even you don't know who you are." Looking up at those red eyes, Dom realized Bull Demon wasn't really looking for an answer. "I am the one who protects them all." Bull Demon roared out a declaration, leaving Dom confused. "So what?" Dom shouted back, raising his axe high. He didn't have the strength to strike down where the enemy stood, so he extended the handle to launch it out of the gravity zone. The axe's handle stretched dozens of meters. It looked strangely familiar. This is the skill that chopped the head of the White Dragon King. It's also the skill that went head-to-head against your master. From the outside, Kang could see Dom's axe shooting out of the light column, and instantly, Bull Demon's gravity changed. Actually, it started to vanish. He must be reaching his limit. "Bull Demon, dodge!" Kang shouted, but Bull Demon didn't move. The axe light blazed brighter and was almost upon him, yet he still didn't budge. In tense moments like this, anyone would think not moving meant certain death. But Bull Demon wasn't about to give up. His eyes lit up with both caution and pride. He hadn't even played his trump card yet, and Dom already dared to act cocky? Black hole! Bull Demon stood still like a statue, but behind him, a deep, endless cosmic void suddenly opened. The gravity zone was getting sucked straight into the black hole, like a drain pulling water down in a swimming pool. Even Dom's giant axe, which had just taken form, started getting warped and twisted by its pull. It quickly turned into a massive golden wave, all of it sucked straight into the black hole. Dom was clearly trying to hold it back, but Bull Demon wasn't letting go either. In no time, the spiritual energy that formed the axe was completely drained into the black hole. Dom screamed in fury, unable to believe it. My spirit energy, it's been absorbed. Yeah, he finally saw it clear. He was probably thinking it was him, this so-called god of war, who shattered Bull Demon's gravity zone, feeling all smug about it. But the truth was, the gravity didn't disappear at all. The reality was, the black hole's gravity absorbed everything, including Dom's own powers. This time, Dom's movement really got locked up. The ground beneath both of them started breaking apart, rising and sinking under the relentless pull of the black hole. Taking advantage of the moment, Bull Demon shed his beastly form. His muscular arms returned. With one powerful thrust, he drove his fist straight into that massive red chest, and it pierced through. The crushing gravity slowed everything down, like it was being filmed in India. Every move was so slow, like they are in the slow motion, because blood was dripping steadily from Dom's body, while he himself was trembling nonstop from the pain of his wounds and the crushing pressure of gravity. The gravity made the blood fall insanely fast, and the splashing sound vanished into silence. During that time, of course, Dom tried to resist, but he didn't feel like he had any chance at all. Had he really taken the full brunt of the attack? No, it couldn't be. He wasn't afraid of anyone. If it came to hand-to-hand combat, he wouldn't lose. Dom let out a furious roar, then somehow managed to land a punch straight into Bull Demon's face, even though he couldn't dodge the earlier strike. Bull Demon's other arm instantly surged with spiritual power, slamming all his strength into Dom's chest, the very spot where his arm had pierced through moments ago. The impact thundered and flung Dom's body backward, pain twisting him in the air before he bent forward violently, coughing out a huge mouthful of blood. With wild fury, Dom unleashed a blazing counterattack, punching Bull Demon in the gut hard enough to punch through him, only to get smacked back by Bull Demon's heavy divine fist. People might say close combat wasn't Dom's strength, but he had just torn open Bull Demon. Their punches looked lightning fast, but right after trading one blow, both of them collapsed as if their strength had drained out all at once. Bull Demon staggered back 2 steps, almost falling, while Dom just slumped flat onto the ground. The surrounding gravity hadn't eased up, but Bull Demon was clearly weakening. He needed time to recover. Seeing that the enemy couldn't continue attacking, Dom knew the guy was at his limit too. He opened his mouth and let out a loud, triumphant laugh. Ha! That's all you got? That's the best you can do, huh? Weren't you just saying you'd take my head? Use more power. Come on. That's the only way you'll live up to your title as the second great beast. Bull Demon didn't reply. The ground beneath his feet kept sinking, crushed by the intense gravity. He clenched his jaw bitterly, pouring his strength into holding the pressure, but still couldn't crush Dom. 80% of the entire domain was under heavy gravity, yet it barely affected him. Even the black hole could only seal off a few of his moves. So what the hell would it take to beat him? The fight had dragged on way longer than expected. Bull Demon knew he didn't have much spirit power left. His hands clenched tight. He didn't know how much longer he could hold out. There was no time left for overthinking. Dom, if you're so tough, come finish me already. A wave of wild spirit power burst from Bull Demon's body. He was burning the last of his energy. This fight couldn't go on any longer. Come at me, Dom roared from the other side. Red spirit energy surging from him like lava, his aura vicious and brutal, completely different from Bull Demon's. That was just the start. Both of them charged and started trading punches like maniacs. Blood sprayed from mouths, from wounds big and small, and their fists flashed like lightning. They kept punching, taking hits, and dishing them out non-stop. They were punching so blindly, so frenziedly, their colors started to mix together like a swirling tornado, and still they didn't stop. The kangaroo standing off to the side watched the two brawlers clash at terrifying speed, with terrifying force. He knew this was it, the final showdown, a life-or-death brawl to the end. No fancy moves, just fists. Kang couldn't do anything but cheer. Bull Demon, beat him. He couldn't help in any other way. His own blood was pouring out like crazy. Inside the storm of punches they were friendly exchanging, Bull Demon hadn't lost his mind. He wasn't the type with just muscle and no brain. This wasn't some contest of who hits harder wins. Still keeping his edge, he ramped up the gravity to 90%, causing Dom to miss a beat. And that was all Bull Demon needed to land a crushing punch that blasted one side of Dom's body away. The war god gasped. seeing his arm had been blown clean off up to the armpit. But he wasn't afraid. He didn't submit. He felt thrilled, satisfied. This was what battle meant. This was why he became the god of war. He roared like a madman and slammed a punch with his remaining arm straight into Bull Demon's gut, landing a full power blow. I've found it. The thrill of battle. The bliss he had been searching for all this time became crystal clear as he saw Bull Demon's side burst open. Neither one slowed down for a second. They headbutted each other, grinding and clashing so hard that sparks flew in all directions. Dom thought that after raising the gravity to 90% and landing that punch, Bull Demon would be at a disadvantage. But to his surprise, the force the beast used to counter him hadn't weakened at all. It still fought back. Was it some kind of immortal creature or what? Dom questioned himself, then quickly realized, no, Bull Demon wasn't some undying beast. It was just that its eyes looked like they were lost in another realm, leaving behind only a fierce determination in every move. Even after Dom bit into its horn, there wasn't a single flicker of pain. Bull Demon's eyes started bleeding, yet it didn't seem to care. I am the protector. I won't let anyone go through the pain of loss ever again. Those words it once told still echoed clearly in Second Bro's mind. In the most peaceful moment of his life, he had sworn to protect that peace. How could it forget that now, in the very battle to preserve it? Turning that resolve into power, Bull Demon once again increased the gravity in its punch. Gravity punch now at 110 cent, and drove it deep into Dom's body. Then came the next, gravity punch at 120 cent, and everywhere it hit, Dom's flesh tore open. He didn't stop, even as its muscles screamed in protest. The harder it fought against the crushing force it created, the more the backlash tore at its own body. Yet Bull Demon kept going, unleashing a super gravity punch even more powerful than the last, diving straight into Dom, who was already reeling backward from that 120% hit. I won't let you walk out of here alive. As long as you live, you'll keep destroying us. That's why I can't let you go. The last super gravity punch crashed into Dom's body, folding him in agony as if all the blood inside was forced out with that one blow. The broken horn made Bull Demon's appearance even more haunting. The more Dom bleed, the more certain Bull Demon felt. It was doing the right thing. I must protect everyone. Bull Demon's earth-shattering punch sent shockwaves across the ground. You could barely see part of Dom's body thrown back, the surrounding air exploding from the immense force. Bull Demon's gravity field had been lifted, all its power now focused into the weight of its punch. After the quake, Kang found everything around it eerily quiet, just a haze of lingering dust. With Dom's temperament, if he was still able to fight, there's no way he'd stay quiet, right? The kangaroo stood proudly, eyes locked into the distance, silently waiting. The center of the attack was still covered in smoke and dust, only the whisper of wind rustling through. Was the kangaroo anxious? Hell yeah. Did it want to shout Bull Demon's name? Of course. Never had it felt so proud to be a comrade of the beast from Misty Mountain. And then his emotions burst when the sight of Bull Demon's gray fur emerged. It was facing away, but Kang could clearly see it lifting Dom by the throat, a gaping hole in Bull Demon's body. He won. Joy rushed in so fast it nearly choked the kangaroo's words. Was this a crushing victory? No. Dom wasn't dead yet. Remember the last time he got slammed by ZU and still clung to life? He looked down at Bull Demon, chuckling from deep in his throat, a low, mocking laugh. You can't stop me. My life's just beginning to burn. So what? Bull Demon stared back with bloodied, cracked eyes. Dom's massive muscles started shrinking. From bulky biceps to arms, they shriveled fast, like a balloon losing air. It wasn't that Dom's power was fading. His body was being compressed. Gravity was pressing in from 4 directions, crushing the weakest parts of Dom's body bit by bit. This time, gravity wasn't spread across his whole body. It was precisely targeted, each part flattened under pinpoint pressure. Rip! Dom's arm tore clean from his shoulder, leaving only a thin shred of skin before it got blown away. Every living thing has its end, even gods. What was Bull Demon afraid of? Why not kill him for good? Dom understood now. His jagged teeth clenched tight, his body torn from limbs to head. Can't believe I'll die in the hands of a trash like you. That was all he managed to say before his mind collapsed, his body reduced to a crumpled mess. The god's eyes bulged wide one last time, then everything that was left of him got crushed into a single line. His eyes flew open in shock as blood splattered through the air. Dom's blood sprayed across its face. Dom was dead. Dead, right? He wondered, looking up at the gray sky that hung like a mourning veil. Had he finally defeated a god? The question he had once asked himself, who am I? Finally had an answer. He had beaten a god.